Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1889. The topic is training and the title is CrossFit Programming Edition for Squat and Deadlift Strength. I do supplemental CrossFit programming all the time. I work with a lot of CrossFit coaches, and it's for various reasons. The most common reason is they've suffered some injury. Their movement quality and strength suffered, specifically related to squat and deadlift, and then typically some overhead style positions or movements. So they either have a shoulder problem, low back problem, hip problem, knee problem, some kind of problem. And through a friend of a friend, they reach out to me, like a client of mine recommends, they reach out, and then we start working together to address the issues. So I wanted to share two programs that I have currently going on, and they're different from each other, which is why I thought they would be both equally fun to share rather than just sharing one of them. I can't share all of them because there's too many, so I figured this would be two fun kind of comparison programs. One client is very high-level CrossFit athlete. She suffered a disc herniation and had a lot of hip pain in her squats. She had a friend of hers who was a past client of mine who had hamstring surgery, like detachment surgery, and we were able to get her back to squatting correctly and strong and hit new PRs and stuff. And she recommended that my now current client, the CrossFit coach, reach out. So we started working together. We've been working together for a couple of years. She's kicking ass, pain-free, getting stronger. Everything's going really well. So her programming, how we do that supplement or that addition, is I give her 2 lower body focused workouts a week, and they are mobility and like squat focused. The other one is mobility and deadlift focused. Now sometimes to build one, like we might do squats in both times. Maybe one's a regular squat, one's a box squat. The idea is we do one day stuff that builds their squat, one day that stuff that builds their deadlift, but it doesn't always mean that the deadlift day is a deadlift. Sometimes in order to help strengthen someone's in order to help strengthen someone's deadlift, you have to get them into different positions that a squat variation might actually offer better. So I'll leave that for another podcast. But we're having a lot of fun programming in that way. So the other workouts during the week that she does on her own are upper body focused. So I help her with lower body ones twice a week. The other ones she does are they're probably full body, to be honest. Full body focused. There's definitely some heavy stuff in there for the upper body, a lot of conditioning work, a lot of core work. But it's not typically going to be additional heavy lower body work. We keep the heavy lower body work for our 2 workouts. The other client I have, we do a lot of other stuff. We supplement 1 workout a week for what we do, a strength-based workout. So they scrap the CrossFit stuff 1 day a week. The other days, I have a specific warm-up for them. Now, this client, his main issue is mobility, and he was having just really delayed strength progression. Felt like his technique he wasn't getting great technique feedback, nothing that really kind of made sense to him. And I had a connection with that CrossFit gym, so he knew I knew strength. We got in touch, so we've been adding to his CrossFit programming with strength-specific work. So we do a lot of mobility stuff because that was the big issue for him, was mobility. And then also just getting into proper positions with proper weight loads was part of the problem for strength development as well. So I do a specific mobility warm-up that he does every workout. 1 day a week we do just our workout. Then 1 day a week we add a post upper body workout with more upper body elements and a post lower body workout with more lower body elements. And then I have substitutions for him for if they have a strength lift, but he doesn't like that one, he'll substitute heavy strength squat variations. And we also have a Metcon substitution. So if he feels like one of the Metcons that week aren't really related to what his main goals are or his main issues, then he substitute with the Metcon that we made. So basically he has a lot of options to plug and play elements into the CrossFit programming if he doesn't feel like what's programmed that day specifically targets his known weaknesses, or if it's more cardio based, he doesn't need more cardio, he needs more strength. So if it's highly cardio based, he'll substitute for some of our stuff. So the first client that we're working through the disc herniation, we do every workout, we start with mobility work. So for this one, we do a little bit of foam rolling to help loosen up the muscles around the hips and the lats. And then we do a shoulder internal, external rotational PNF release to help with thoracic tightness and shoulder positioning underneath the barbell back squat. This is something that we found was like an energy leak, quote unquote, for her in squats, is her elbows would be rolled, like rotated upward, and her shoulders were kind of hunched and rolled forward. So if we can get the elbows to rotate down, get the shoulders to rotate back, that allows her to get her shoulder blades squeezed harder together, and that creates a much tighter base in the thoracic spine, which better translates the leg strength straight into the bar. So there's not that weak link in the thoracic spine. Then we do some hip mobility stuff. Then we do a general mobility that kind of gets her up and moving, but a lot of hip-based stuff. So she does like a frog stretch, a DNS star, some other elements. Now this is due to the disc herniation she has is in her lower spine. So we want to strengthen all the small nuancy things that are around the hips to help control the hip position and the spinal position to help relieve some of the stress that she was having with that disc herniation. So we've been doing great. She hasn't had pain in well over a year, if not longer than that. So then we go into some type of nervous system stimulus. We've been doing heavy yoke carries, trap bar carries. We're doing dumbbell farmers carries this time. We just do something that kind of spikes her nervous system and kind of excites the body, but doesn't take her through a full range of motion, certainly no eccentric loading, to where we would pre-damage the tissues before going into squats. But we do want some type of nervous system stimulation. Then she goes into squats. Sometimes we do high reps. Sometimes we do heavier weight. Depends on what season we're in. But I list actually the weights for her. So like this next workout she has, well actually the one she just did today, we worked up to 115 kilograms, 3 sets of 2, then 1 set of 6. So she got the 3 sets of 2 with good technique quality work, and then the 1 set of 6 would have pushed her a little bit. And then we do a heavy walkout hold for 10 counts at 130 kilograms. So she does great with that. Then we kind of build that up over 4 weeks. Then after that, she goes into dumbbell dual front rack squat, which is just going to murder her core and help work on the knees, because a front rack, especially with 2 kettlebells, you're going to have a more upright torso. So it's going to force the knees to go forward. So this is actually going to strengthen the tissue of her quadriceps down by the knees specifically, which is going to help the body position that she has to squat with. So this exercise is specific for the position it forces as it relates to how she actually squats with the barbell. And then we have a quad stretch on a roller pad, which is basically just to make sure her quads are opened up, the hip flexors aren't too tight, the upper quads aren't too tight, so that way it doesn't cause forward rotation of the hip structure as a tightness between the workouts, which could cause that disc herniation pain, cause some inflammation and pain there. So that's one of our workouts. The other workout we do, again, prep work. We do a CNS stimulus, and then we do deadlifts. Now, again, if we're doing high volume in one lift, I tend to do heavy weight in the other. So if I'm doing high volume in squat, I'll do heavy in deadlifts, or vice versa. And then the accessories we do, she has this time a kettlebell dual sumo stiff leg deadlift, and this is to work on the upper hamstring connector, again with the core bracing. And then we have kettlebell dual narrow RDL, and again that's just getting her into another kind of like hamstring glute position with low back stimulus. So that's going to be more hinge based work, whereas on the squat day we did more uprighted torso, more knee based stimulus for lower body. So that would be her workouts. It's probably takes her about I would say 60 minutes, maybe 60 to 75 minutes. Now, whenever people are used to the way I program, they'll be able to get them done like a little faster and faster. But usually around an hour is what I aim for her workouts. Now, the other client, for example, his strength-based workout, like the one where we have to substitute the entire day, he has his mobility warm-up where we do leaning over Cossack squats, a deep squat, where like a deep squat hold with an adductor stretch, and then we do like a movement pattern in that. So we have a little bit of a static stretch but into a dynamic stretch, and then we do what's called a deep squat into reptile push-up. This is great for opening up the pec and the shoulders to improve back positioning for the squat. It also helps to open up the hip flexor and the quadricep, so it opens up a lot of stuff around the hips, and it works on your core a little bit. You have to activate and kind of tighten and brace your core. So then he goes into a superset where you do 2 exercises back to back with conventional deadlifts and bench press. So we have his strength substitute as squats, that if he doesn't squat heavy in the CrossFit programming that week, he'll substitute a squat in later that week. So we do deadlift and bench press. Now, why in the world are we doing bench press for a CrossFit competitor? It's because he was wanting to work on pressing strength, but they already do a lot of overhead work. So I wanted to stimulate and challenge his body with a new position. So as an example, when we started, he was super shaky and wobbly at 135-pound bench press, and now he's hitting 200 pounds. He's been hitting 185 for sets of 3 to 4. So his strength has definitely gone up in the bench press, which has translated to stronger shoulder stabilization and tricep strength for his overhead press work. So it was a great movement pattern that didn't overly double up on all the things he was already doing. It was a newer stimulus because it was a newer angle. The conventional deadlifts, we do a lot of variations right now. I have him doing paused off the start. So he pushes through his legs to get the bar off the ground about 1 or 2 inches. Then he stops, holds that position, and then tries to come up and finish through the range of motion. What I'm really wanting him to do is to learn to use leg push to get the bar started. So if you ever try a pause off the floor, an isometric hold off the floor, you cannot just lower back drag that up. You have got to use leg drive. So that has pushed him in order to be able to learn leg drive. Now, since we started, I don't remember the exact numbers, but he's hit like a 40, 50-pound PR on deadlifts. So you've gotten a huge gain on that as well. And then he has a couple things he finishes up with. That's a lower body hinge mechanic and an upper body. And then we do typically do an overhead press in the upper body accessory. Now, his lower body workout, like after one lower body dominant type CrossFit day, he adds in hip airplanes and Spider-Man walking lunges, which improve mobility. After one upper body dominant CrossFit day, we add in diamond push-ups, which are tricep dominant, with overhand narrow pull-ups. Now, I'll do a million different variations of pull-ups, but that's good. He wants to improve his pull-up strength, as that's helpful for all of CrossFit. Specifically, he wants to be able to do better at Murph every year because that's a good marker that we have for yearly progress. So we do a lot of pull-ups. Then his strength substitute, we work up to some heavy squats, nothing super amazing there. And then the Metcon substitute, I have him doing ski erg reverse flies, dumbbell clean and press with 2 dumbbells, and then renegade rows. That is a freaking wicked circuit, by the way, if you want to give that a shot. But it helps with shoulder mobility and bracing, helps with lower body strength and mechanics, as well as core bracing. Just a ton of benefit through those exercises. So I thought it'd be fun to just hear that you can add to CrossFit programming if you want to improve your squat and deadlift strength, or in my other client, his overhead press strength and mobility. But if there's an element that you feel like is lacking in your CrossFit programming, there are a million ways to add to the programming to make sure you address those weaknesses and catch them up as quickly as you can. And especially if you're having any aches and pains, there's a lot of ways to add therapies and different ways to address that issue that still allow you to have fun in CrossFit, but not feel beat up from it. So I thought that would be fun to share, just some of the structures that we add in, what we look for in concepts. Cool. Okay, well, there you go. So if you're looking for a CrossFit programming edition, whether it's for squat and deadlift strength, whether it's for mobility, whether it's for overhead stuff. You can take some of the ideas we talked about in today's podcast, or you can always reach out. Right now I'm offering free 15-minute consultations. You can sign up via email at brutalirongym@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com, and sign up there. We have a link on the one-on-one services page to sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. You can tell me what your goals are, what your struggles are, and I'll tell you how we can work together to overcome them. Cool. Well, if you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. Also, if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.